if you want to be able to walk away from your business and go on 3, 4, dare I say 5-week vacations or visit family or whatever it might be, you're going to have to set a team in place for that. And after you set that compelling vision, like we talked about last week, as the leader being the one who sets that vision with your team, and then you hold people accountable to keep that vision going, the one thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to check your ego at the door. Hello. Welcome to Outer Spaces, a podcast dedicated to empowering landscapers, hardscapers, and outdoor living professionals. I'm Joshua Gillow. My mission through this show is to create a powerful resource for you, someone who is striving to grow their company well past the $1 million line, but might not have all the tools and processes to do so. Here in Outer Spaces, we are passionate about breaking the chains of small mindsets and helping contractors just like you take control of their businesses and their lives. With nearly 3 decades of experience designing, selling, and building 6-figure outdoor living spaces, I've made all the mistakes. Starting with $0 in my pocket, and through the grace of God and a ton of hard work, I now own multiple businesses that afford me the time with my family and the lifestyle I've always dreamed of. So join me as I share what I've learned along my journey, strategies, and other contractor success stories right here on the Outer Spaces podcast. Now, let's get on with the show. Hello, welcome back to the Outer Spaces podcast. This is your host, Joshua Gillow, and today is our last week with Scott Lezak. We're going to focus on our entire conversation on how to build a business that doesn't need you. As a business owner, we are always excited about the notion, the idea that we could have a company that would run without us being there each and every day to do the thing, right? This week, we're going to unpack how we did it and help you empower your teams to take over so that they can grow your company to levels that you only ever dreamed of. So let's get started. Hey, and welcome back, Scott, to the Outer Spaces podcast here. Today, our topic is how to build a business that doesn't need you. Now, I know most listeners are thinking like, yeah, sure, that's great. When will that ever happen? I'm kind of the chief cork and bottle washer in my company. I do everything. Without me, there is no company, right? And we've all been there. I've been there too, starting out companies and being the only one, and then growing teams and figuring out what my role is in that organization. But today I want to get into more about, how do you build a business that doesn't need you? It sounds like such an amazing thing. You see these pictures of these guys that build a business and then they're off on a boat somewhere in the Mediterranean as their business is growing. Like, seriously, the first time I left my business for more than a week, I thought it was going to come back to nothing but like huge fires and everything gone and clients coming with lawyers trying to take all the money back. And like, that's what I thought. And the crazy part is it never happened. But that was going on in my mind. So welcome back to the show, Scott. We got a lot to unpack in a little bit of time.
Absolutely. This is going to be a fun episode, and it's, what a great topic. What a great topic. Yeah. I had set out on the goal to build a company that would run without me, so I had flexibility to do whatever I wanted to, and I achieved that probably about 3 years ago, and I was so bored so fast when I wasn't needed within the company. I had to figure some other stuff out. So I want to throw a caution out there too. It might not be all it's cracked up to be. You don't realize how much you crave to be doing something until you don't have anything to do. And, that's where my next idea came though. That's where Inspire You came from. And that fills that time. But yeah, it's imperative. It's imperative to build a company. The success of your company really relies on you building it to the point that it runs without you, without your involvement. Getting the talent from other people into that pool so their skill sets expand. And, a lot of people have a very challenging time hiring people older than them. I was one of those people. I had a challenge with that for years because of my imposter syndrome, my insecurities that I had. Like, well, this person's going to know more than me. How is this going to work? And I have several employees that are older than me, substantially older, and they're the best guys we have. They know way more than I do, and they go to work every day, and they're teaching me every day, and they're helping me expand every day. And it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible to do that. But this is going to be a fun topic. This is going to be a great conversation.
Yeah, no, absolutely, dude. And it's so... Yeah, as you grow, you're either going to be the person that owns a company that always has to be out doing stuff in the field. And hey, if that's you, if you're listening right now and you're like, you know what, I love building cool shit. That's awesome. Don't change a thing. Keep doing that. But remember, you are going to have, at some point, if your goal is to grow, you're going to have to build a team, right? We talked about teammates last week. When we were talking about the top 3 strategies to build and keep a team that cares, right? So if you want to be able to walk away from your business and go on 3, 4, dare I say 5-week vacations or visit family or whatever it might be, you're going to have to set a team in place for that. And after you set that compelling vision, like we talked about last week, as the leader being the one who sets that vision with your team, and then you hold people accountable to keep that vision going, the one thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to check your ego at the door. That's one of the biggest things you got to learn, because man, ego gets you in business. I can do this. No problem. I can do it better than that guy, right? To get you in there. But the next problem you're going to have is that same ego is going to drive you through a wall, because that same ego is going to try to take over and try to manhandle your employees. Should I call them teammates, right? And your employees out.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Isn't it great shooting from home? You just never know what kind of sounds you're going to have coming through. So the listeners get, we're shooting from home. We've got families. We got animals. We got all that stuff. We'll keep it real. No shame in that, brother. My kids are older now. They're a little quieter, but I remember those days quickly.
But yeah, I mean, this is a great conversation, great topic. The building of the systems and the processes. We covered this a little bit on the last episode, but getting that skeleton in place, that's key. And understanding people aren't manageable. You can't manage a single person out there. Systems and processes are manageable. So the portion that not just you, your entire team, every single team member on that team has to do is manage the process. So us as visionaries, that's our responsibility to start. We don't even have to develop the entire company. We have to develop enough of the company for it to run, and then create the templates and allow other people within the company. Okay, well, this. Oh, you know this area better than I do. We need processes around this. We don't have anything. Can you please develop these? Going back, giving ownership, giving all those pieces. But all of these are the fundamental building blocks. You have to be meticulously organized, meticulously dedicated to making the company better every day. And not just you, but every single person on that team. That is everybody's job. Every job description that we have at Castle Rocks, the first thing it says, do whatever it takes to better the company today. That is the first description in any job function that we have in that. And then we get into the details, because obviously there's details that have to go into that. But that's our number one job, our number one goal for all of this. And the processes are where it starts to really grow and expand this.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. I mean, building systems and processes with your teams is the most important part, not dictating them from up top down, right? Because they're not going to stick. No one's going to follow them, and you're just going to find yourself banging your head against the wall. Another thing that is extremely important, especially if there's more than one owner in the company, is defining exact roles and responsibilities, dude. I remember being in business with my brother, and it was like, well, I thought you were going to do that. No, I thought you were going to do that. No, I thought you were going to do that. No, that's not what I signed up for. I don't do that stuff. You do that, but I don't want to do that, right? So, and then that thing never got done, right? So the point is having exact lines of like, okay, this is clearly in your column, and you talk about this. You don't dictate this. You talk like, hey, you know what? I'm a little bit better communicating, so maybe sales is more my thing. You're a little bit better with logistics or running equipment. Maybe that's more of what you do. Let's figure this out. Let's all agree on it, and let's sign this document that says this is what we've agreed to today, right? That can change in the future. It's not an ironclad thing that can never change. But if you don't have clear roles and responsibilities, especially in the ownership side of things, you're going to be in for a lot of hurt, because there's going to be certain things that are going to fall through the cracks, or they're just not going to be done well at all. And for some of you guys out there that are, you are the entire company, you have to wear all of those hats, and you try to balance all that stuff. And you know what? To be honest with you, Scott, I suck at a lot of stuff. I'm like you when it comes to being a visionary. I'm a visionary. I am not an implementer. I love coming up with ideas. I love encouraging and building teams. I love getting them involved, all because my gift is not in getting it done.
Yeah.
My gift is in being able to see it and having faith that we'll get there as a team and being able to work with people. Now, in the last episode, I talked about giving the listeners a little trick. I hate to call it a trick, but it is a trick. A little trick that you can use if you are scared of confrontation. Because the biggest thing, especially like say you have a client and or even a teammate that has a grievance or some kind of problem that they're dealing with, they have to build up this emotional volcano to a point where they've got enough guts to make a call, text, email, whatever it might be, right? So they're kind of fuming at that point. So one thing to think about is timing. All right, do you really want to hit them when they're ready to explode? Do you want to be that pin ready to pop the balloon? Like, do you want to do that? And sometimes you don't have a choice. Things just happen. And you got to be there. This trick that I'm going to teach you will do that situation, whether it's right now or whether you can give it an hour to cool down and then hit it more logically. Both ways will work here. So what it is, first off, when you get on that phone with a client and they're heated up about something, the last thing you want to do is start to assume that you know their problem, even though you may 100% know their problem. They might have told you all about it already through an email or a text. And now you're finally getting on a call to solve this problem or meeting them face to face. They might already know. You might already know what it is. Don't assume a thing. Never assume. You say, hey, Mrs. Jones, hey, I got your text. Tell me what's on your mind. That's the first question. Tell me what's on your mind. And then he or she will just go into this long conversation with themselves about statement about all the things that happen and what's going on. And then, Scott, you'll actually have information. You can start to see the world through their point of view. So when you offer solutions, you can solve problems as opposed to assuming you already know what their problems are. And then saying, all right, well, you know what? I know that here, and here is where we made a mistake. This has to be done. You're being way too ridiculous here and your expectations are wrong. Right. And then she's just going to get more crazy or he's going to get more crazy. So its first thing is saying, tell me what's on your mind. And then empathy. I'm sorry you're feeling that way. Seriously, I'm sorry you're feeling that way. If it were my house, I would feel the same way. And then you go into what we'd like to call the solution side of things. Hey, are you open to listen to a couple solutions we have? Yeah. Okay. Have 2 or 3 options for them. Deliver them with certainty. Hey, this is one path. Here's another path. Here's another path. Which one would you like to take?
I love it.
So lead, big open question. What's on your mind? If you have a client that's going crazy, what's on your mind? Let them talk. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't know what's truly going on until they can vent. And I'll tell you something. This works for the wife too. So what's on your mind, honey? Don't ever assume you think you know because you don't. So confrontation, that's the easiest way to do it. And then you have to have a little bit of, you have to eat a slice of humble pie sometimes and realize that maybe you messed up. Maybe you need to own that instead of trying to point it at somebody else. So when you own it, what's on your mind? Tell me what's going on. Oh, I totally understand. This is the empathy side. So first open up, then empathy, and then the solution with certainty. The next thing you know, you don't have problems anymore, and you'll look for them. You'll be looking for problems. You'll be kicking bees' nests and kicking bears in the balls in order to just try this out. Like, I got to try this thing, right? I'm telling you, it works amazingly. And it's not about any kind of manipulation. It's simply just being a good listener. How can we possibly come in and help solve problems that we don't know what they truly are?
Man, I love it. I love it. And a statement just came into mind as you were saying all that. We actually create these confrontations. We create these confrontations by assumption. The assumption that we have leads to the confrontation. Whereas if we just approach it, if we just walk into these situations and our intention is to listen and to absorb and to understand somebody else's position first before trying to get our position out, it would change. It would alleviate 99% of these. And the 1% that's left there is when you have 2 egos that are just butting and it's all egotistical at that point. If you're rationally thinking, both parties, and rationally communicating, confrontation shouldn't exist. It's problem solving at that point.
It is, exactly. And if we're afraid that the other person's going to yell at us, tell us we're not going to pay it or punch us in the nose, like that doesn't happen when they get a chance to finally vent. You wonder why you get bad reviews, like on your website or even on Google or whatever. It's because the client never had a chance to vent. They went to that medium, the writing medium in that Google review, to write something bad because you never called. You never showed up. Be a man, be a woman, go out and face them face to face. Say, guys, what's on your mind? I've had to do that many times in my career. I remember one very specifically where a client was all of a sudden got pissed off for no reason. I didn't think so at all. Again, my assumption, right? And the husband was always in the background. The wife was always the one that we were communicating with. And they were part of our conversation through our sales process and everything, but he kind of fell off. Well, at a certain point, this guy starts texting us and said, I can't believe you think you're going to be doing these things on my property. This isn't going to happen. And I can't believe you haven't been including me in all these emails. And he made it very clear earlier that he didn't want to be part of them because he's a busy man. But at a certain point, it was a problem. And he said, I want all work to stop on my site. I want nothing else happening. And we've got crews coming and working. And it's like, what are we going to do with this? I said, guys, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. How's 3 p.m.? Will you both be able to be on site? I'd like to meet with you and talk through this. And they said, yeah, we'll be here, but you better watch out. You know, I'm really good at arguing. That was it was a while ago, but that was the tenor of the conversation. I said, hey, no problem. I'll be there at 3:00. So Scott gives them time to simmer down and start thinking a little more logically, a little less emotionally. So when I got there, they both stood in the front yard, cold as ice. And I said, guys, because they were expecting, what does a contractor typically do? Or men in general, right? What do? They go up there and they just start, what is your problem? I'm here giving you, like they come in with these big, nasty, loud, because they think like they have to overpower them. And I simply went in and said, guys, I'm here. What's on your mind? Even though they told me all this stuff on the phone, what's on your mind? They reiterated it all again. By the time they were done talking, they were just out of gas, right? That confrontation just like finally somebody listened and he took the time to come down and actually see us. Solved the problem in about 15 minutes. All it was is to make sure that his email was part of the email chain. That was the biggest problem here. It wasn't anything else. He was just so mad that he wasn't part of the conversation, that his wife was taking over the project. That's a marital thing, not a contractor thing, right? But we don't know these things. If we come back with this big, loud, thing and start being, holding our space and saying, look, this is what we do. This isn't right. Why are you treating me like this? Everybody treats me like this. I'm a whatever. You could say all of those things, but just stop and say, hey, tell me what's on your mind. And you're going to be amazed. Hey, I totally understand. Like, I wouldn't want to be left out of the conversations either. So here's a couple of options we have. Do you want me just to include you in all the emails? Do you want me just to do it in text? How would you like me to do this? And I said, well, just put me in all the emails. All right, cool. We looked around the project and walked off, and that was that. But man, I was pissing my pants. I'm like, this client's going to flip. It's a $350,000 project. This client's going to flip. I'm going to lose money. They're going to pull out. I'm going to have to tell my subcontractors I'm not going to be able to pay them. Like all this crap goes through your head. And all it was hey, just stop that. All that worry 99% of the time never comes true anyway. We know that. So let's just have a conversation like two humans. Let's treat them with respect and listen. You're going to be amazed what happens. I don't want to take this whole episode up on this, but it is a super powerful thing that I've learned, a lesson that I've learned along the way, to first ask and then go through empathy and then offer some solutions with certainty. The next thing you know, those problems, you're going to be looking for problems, Scott. I don't know about you, but I look for problems now. I'm not scared of them anymore because I know I have a process that we've developed as a company over time to manage things like this. Because I don't care how good you're doing it. You're going to run into problems. You're going to meet somebody who had an expectation that you didn't have. And you're going to have to work through that. So instead of hiding from them and staying small as a company, learn how to dance in the rain instead of trying to stay dry all the time.
Amen. Amen. I love it. Well, that concludes this episode. I think all of what you just said, it's really important to make sure that we're approaching every conversation, whether it's a challenging one or not. Every conversation, approach it to listen, not to respond. Yeah. And having that approach that I am listening, I want to understand rather than I just want to respond. I want to talk. I want to tell you who I am. Changes everything, changes the whole dynamic. And the other piece, for me personally, problem doesn't even belong in my vocabulary anymore. There's no problems. I don't run into any problems any day. They're all challenges because a challenge is something that we can navigate around. And that shift for me, if that works for you, that's great. I hope it does. But that shift in terminology, it's the exact same thing, but calling it a challenge instead of a problem reduces the negativity that you started with. And it induces the thought process to, hey, I got to face this challenge. I got to get past this challenge. What am I going to do? It changed everything. I started doing that years ago, and it's powerful. It's very powerful.
Oh, yeah. 100%, dude. So we came into this episode talking about, how can we build a business that doesn't need you, right? And the one thing that I can say from my heart, and I want to hear Scott from this as well, is you need to empower your team and fire yourself as soon as possible from so many hats that you have, right? All these hats that we have, we think we're the only ones that can do it. Our clients only want us. This is all egotistical bullshit. The reality is your team is far more powerful than you ever realize. And if you never help them find that, that's shame on you. You'll never be able to leave. You'll always have a ball and a chain around your leg and not be able to travel or do whatever's on your heart to do. Maybe it's going fishing twice a week, whatever it might be, spending time with your family. You'll always have the excuse unless you start empowering and holding your team accountable by setting a vision. And once you do that, you will be able to have that business you've always dreamed of, be able to own a business, not own your job. But so much of this, systems and processes and empowering a team to help build all of this together so you can step out and they can be even more dangerous in a good way when you're gone. And your company can not only just survive when you're gone, but thrive and grow when you're not there. Isn't it great, Scott, when you have a company, when you come back and you're like, hey guys, how did everything go while I was gone? They're like, yeah, we sold a bunch of work and we're actually ahead of our sales numbers right now and everything is great. And you're like, sweet, keep doing that. it's amazing, right?
It is. And that's my daily experience. I love it. And you nailed it though. The number one, if you walk away from this and, don't take any more than one thing out of this, listen to it again, because there's a whole lot more than one thing. I'll say that first. But the number one thing here is the empowerment. That's what creates this, empowering your people. And to do that, it takes trust. You have to trust your people. Where does that start? That starts in the hiring process. If you're like, hey, this person's a little funky, I don't know if I trust this person, don't hire them. Because if you don't trust them from the beginning, or they're not going to be a trustworthy person, you can never empower them. So make sure you're hiring the right people. Make sure you're putting the right people in the right seats. When you have the right person in the wrong seat, move the seat. Don't get rid of that person. Just move the seat that they're in. And empower them to make their mind, and empower them to make mistakes. That's a hard one. Hard one.
Oh, yeah.
You see one and they're going through and it's going to cost the company $1,000. You know it. Don't step in. Do not step in. If it's $10,000,
resist at all costs. Resist.
$10,000, $20,000, $50,000, maybe step in on those. But when you're talking smaller numbers, let them make that mistake. And don't reprimand them at the end. Have the conversation. Hey, this cost us $1,000. Here's why. Let's talk about this. How can we avoid this in the future? And again, back to that questioning and get them to the solution again. That teaching moment is more powerful than anything else you can do.
It's the best $1,000 you'll ever spend.
Yes, it
That's
is.
for sure, dude. Because you know what? They start taking accountability and you're like, I messed that up. Therefore, in the future, that's my responsibility not to do again. Because I honestly think that people are intrinsically good. Like deep down, they just need to have an environment where they can be good and not have to act a certain way. And that's not everybody, but I feel like most people are that way. So we have to create an environment for them for that. So guys, if you want to be able to go on vacation and have a company that you don't need to be at every day, you need to learn how to trust yourself. And then you can start trusting other people. Right? That's typically where trust stems from. You have to be able to trust yourself, your word, your disciplines, your follow through, all of that. And then you can finally start trusting people. But hiring the right ones that actually have that capacity is important. So Scott, again, we could talk all day on this, but how can people find you if they're looking for more information?
Absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook, Scott with 2 T's, Lesak, Lesak. Connect with me, message me, follow me. Let's talk. I'd love to have a conversation. Also, feel free to send me an email, scott@myinspireyou.com. Love to talk, love to share more of my experience, and I'd love to hear your story.
Well, I appreciate you, Scott, for this last 4 weeks of working together and spilling some of the stuff that we've learned, spilling the beans, if you will, things that we've learned that I wish somebody would have poured into us when we first started. It took one too many punches to the face to realize some of this stuff is truth. So I hope the listeners out there got a lot from you. I know I certainly always do. And man, I just wish you the best.
You too, Josh. Thanks for having me. It's been a really enjoyable couple episodes here. I appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.